Hey everybody, how's it going? Marcos Villegas here in Arizona, being joined with Steven Espinoza for this Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva fight that's happening this weekend on pay-per-view. Steven, though, us being a boxing channel and having a boxing fan base, I want to get on the hottest topic, and it's two fights that we were hoping we would get. One, it didn't happen in Spence and Crawford, at least for this year, but the second one, is this Tank versus Ryan fight going to happen, man?
Look, I wish I could give you a definitive answer. What I can tell you is, that our side is going to stay at the table for as long as it takes. And we're not walking away. Tank's not looking at other opportunities. Not going to surprise anybody. With this, this is going to be played out until, it's clear that a deal can or can't be made. So at this point, Tank wants the fight. I know Ryan wants the fight. I think the negotiation has been portrayed a little bit differently. It's sort of like, oh, well, the fighters negotiate this and the networks negotiate that. That's never been how it works. I mean, the negotiations are run by the promoters, and that promoter deal is addressing everything, including who should be the network and what the financial split is and all that. So obviously we're involved in negotiations and the discussions, but the reality is it's sort of, it's not a sort of two-part arrangement. Practically speaking, that doesn't change that much. You either have a deal or you don't. We don't have a deal yet. I think it's close. Network is one of the issues. There are a couple other issues. But I think hopefully what we've seen in the disappointment we all feel as boxing fans from not getting the Spence Crawford fight, will make everybody involved double down and really get this. And like I said, I think this is one of the best fights that can be done in the sport. Their absolute peak of their careers with two great fan bases. So we'll stay at the table as long as it takes to make it.
Showtime has done co-pay-per-views before with HBO for Floyd and Manny. We've seen Fox and ESPN do a co-pay-per-view show. What's so difficult to do a co-pay-per-view show with DAZN? Like, what's going on there? And is it possible? Because that seems to be, from what everyone's read, from what I read, that's a huge sticking point as to which network it lands on.
Yeah, that is an element. Look, and there's there's strongly held positions on both sides. I think, look, if we look at where there've been co-promotions, it's literally been the biggest events of all time. And it's hard to sort of explain. And you've been there for some of the co-promotions, how much more difficult and painful it is. Going through with a partner joined at the hip on every single discussion. I mean, we saw crazy results in Mayweather Pacquiao, like the tickets not being on sale until fight week, just to pick one. So there are a lot more complications than just, hey, let's do it together. It does affect a whole range of aspects and make a lot of things more difficult. And then there's the aspect of, is it really necessary? We've seen, fighters, go from Top Rank get released to go on DAZN. We've seen DAZN release fighters to go on Top Rank. Probably DAZN's biggest fighter in since their business started, Anthony Joshua, just did his biggest fight on Sky Sports in the UK. So if I'm Ryan Garcia, I'm asking, wait a minute. So this guy can go across, and Anthony Joshua, who's critical to the business, he can go somewhere else, but I get a life-changing experience and the most important fight of my fight, and I don't have the flexibility to go. Like, there's one side that's made the offer, the Tank side's made the offer. They're driving the business offering. They have a certain view on how the network should work. And that's where things are. And if DAZN is going to insist on being involved in a certain way, well, that may or may not kill the opportunity. I don't want that to happen. We're working for that not to happen, but at the same time, there are certain business realities.
So you mentioned Tank's side, that he's still with Mayweather Promotions. Is that his promoter of record, or is he in a position now that he's freelance? Because you mentioned it's really the promoters negotiating, not so much the fighters and the networks and all that.
Mayweather Promotions is definitely involved, in this, and they're part of the negotiations. Like, what Tank's contract status is or will be is sort of, a topic for another day. But this is something where they're involved, and we're all trying to pull in the same direction to get a fight done.
So based on what you said, I think fans listening to this would get the sense like they don't want to do co-promotion. Like, they want it on network because it's a strong stance. Can't you come in and be like, you know what, they want it, these guys want it, I know you guys would prefer, but like, you know what, let's just all do it because this is a fight that everybody wants?
Look, that may ultimately, that may ultimately be the result. No one, I think, wants to be the obstacle for this. But at a certain point, look, there are business realities. So the fact is, any side can insist on something which would kill the deal. So there's plenty of blame to go around. If we wanted to fight, our network and DAZN disagreed and wouldn't release Ryan, then, there's plenty of blame to go around. So look, my goal in this is getting this fight. As a boxing fan, I don't want to see both fights fall apart at this point. And I know, most importantly, Ryan really wants the fight. It's the only fight that Tank wants. It feels like it's the right time. Who knows where Ryan's going to be in terms of his weight going forward, whether he'll be at 140 or higher in the near future. So, look, I think we have a window here, and we're all working hard to get it done.
Is it close, or it's not even close, honestly, for it to be done?
I would say it's close. Okay. Now, close doesn't mean...
To the finish line.
Yeah, exactly. Close means, there are a handful of issues, and some of them big, some of them small. So, but I think there's been a lot of progress been made. And the best thing, the most optimistic thing I can say is that people are still at the table talking, and that's, as long as that's happening, then there is still hope for a fight being made.
Regardless of what happens, like say with the Crawford and Spence situation, has either or indicated to you like, hey, if it doesn't happen, I'm still fighting. This is my date. I prefer to fight December here.
I don't think there's there hasn't been anything like that. I mean, there have been some targets, and I know Tank has certain times when he wants to fight and he doesn't want to be out of the ring, but that's typical for any fighter. So, but at this point, no, there's not any ultimatums or deadlines. We're just trying to get it done as quickly as possible because everyone's impatient.
So what's this December in Atlanta or Vegas deal or date that's been floating around? That got me hopeful. That made me think like, okay, it's pretty damn close.
Well, part of the difficulty is right now, and we're still sort of coming out of the pandemic in certain elements of the business, and one of those is the live event business. And you're still seeing monster tours, like people coming into the Staples Center and doing a week straight. So venues are at a premium. So a lot of times, there's a game going on of, trying to hold venues and make sure, how certain is this tour, how certain is this boxing event, that kind of thing. So I think a lot of people see that and say, look, oh, they're holding this event. Yeah, that is one scenario. It could be a pay-per-view. It could be Tank fight. Could be an Ennis fight. It could be a lot of things. But no, there's probably been discussions for all of those things. A pay-per-view fight, a Tank fight, an Ennis fight, or other things. But I think part of it is, there's if you scoured the country and called every venue, there's a lot of venues on hold. So you have to do that in order, because that's one of the things that happened in Spence Crawford. As we got later and later, and the deal wasn't closed, we lost venues in Vegas. I mean, we had some venues in Vegas, but at a certain point, the venue calls up and said, hey, time to fish or cut bait. You're either doing the fight or I'm giving it to somebody else. So that's the game. When you lose one venue, you need another venue on hold. So it's, you can read too much into the venue reservation thing.
Man, Showtime's not done, right? Because of what Broner said and the whole Paramount Plus merging and all that stuff. You guys are still going to do boxing, or is it going to be Paramount boxing?
It's funny. When Broner says crazy things, a lot of people, you just write it off, and that's Broner being crazy. But for some reason, when Broner said that, all of a sudden people took it as dead serious, and he's a great source of information. No, like, we are as busy as ever. We are planning, a monster first half of the year next year. We've got, one fight already that I think is sort of underappreciated because people haven't started thinking about next year. But in January, we'll have Jamel Charlo and Tim Tszyu, which is, I think, a fantastic fight. It won't be our only fight in January, but I think it's a real strong start to the year.
All right, Steven, I got to let you go. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe for more videos of your favorite fighters over here on Fight Up TV. And give us a follow online as well at Fight Up TV on Twitter and on Instagram. We appreciate it, guys.